I never saw it coming. Not once in a million years. I thought the anniversary gala would be just like all the others, elegant, beautiful, and full of smiles. But that night, well, that night changed everything. I remember the way the ballroom shimmered under the chandelier's soft glow, the laughter that echoed from every corner, and the smooth clink of crystal glasses being lifted in celebration. I had spent weeks organizing this event, an extravagant affair to celebrate our 10-year marriage. Everyone in our circle was there. Friends, family, colleagues, all dressed in their finest. It was the night I had dreamed of, the night I had planned down to the smallest detail. But that night, in front of them all, my husband handed me divorce papers. It was as though time froze. The papers were cold in my hands, the ink smudged slightly by the sweat on my palm. I looked at him, his face expressionless, his eyes devoid of any warmth. He didn't even say anything at first, just watched me like I was a stranger. "Is this a joke?" I asked, barely managing to keep my voice steady. My heart was hammering in my chest, but I was trying, desperately, not to let anyone see. He shook his head. "No, it's not a joke, Claire." And just like that, my world came crashing down. Let me backtrack a bit. When I first met David, I thought I had found my Prince Charming. He was ambitious, driven, charismatic, the kind of man who could charm anyone and make them believe he was the most important person in the room. We met at a charity event, the kind where everyone wore tuxedos and pearls, sipping champagne and mingling with people who owned half the city. I was working for a PR firm at the time, handling social media for big names. But David was on a whole different level. He had built an empire from scratch, starting with a small real estate venture and growing it into a multi-billion-dollar business. He was powerful, respected, and ridiculously good-looking. I remember thinking, why would a man like that be interested in someone like me? I wasn't the typical trophy wife, not the kind of woman who went after the power and fame. But David saw something in me. He told me he loved my intelligence, my grounded nature. Our courtship was whirlwind. We were engaged within 6 months, married within a year. Our wedding was a spectacle, and our life after that felt like the pages of a glossy magazine. Luxury vacations, a sprawling mansion, the finest restaurants, the best clothes. We were inseparable, or at least that's what I thought. But then came the cracks. At first, they were small little things I could easily dismiss. The late nights at the office, the endless business trips, the way he would brush off my concerns about our relationship, telling me, "I'm doing this for us, for our future," the future that always seemed to be just out of reach. Slowly I stopped seeing him. I mean, really seeing him. I stopped being the woman he was married to, and became just another accessory in his empire. Over time, I learned the painful truth. David loved his business more than he loved me. Or maybe he loved it more than anything at all. The late nights, the constant meetings, the boardroom battles, he was consumed by it all. He became someone I didn't recognize anymore. But I stayed. For the image. For the life. For what everyone else saw. What I didn't want to admit to myself was that I had become just as trapped in his world as he was. That night at the gala, when I looked at those divorce papers, my mind scrambled to make sense of what was happening. Was it a moment of madness? A midlife crisis? A power play? David didn't say a word as I stood there, frozen, in front of him. The guests continued to mingle around us, oblivious to the storm that had just begun to brew. "You're really doing this?" I finally managed to choke out, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. He nodded, his jaw tight, his expression hard. "I'm sorry, Claire. But it's over." The noise of the ballroom faded in my ears. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. Instead, I felt a strange calm wash over me. A cold clarity. "You want a divorce? Fine. I said, my voice gaining strength. But we do it my way. David's eyes flickered with a mix of confusion and irritation. What are you talking about? I stood straighter, the papers still in my hand. You can't just end our marriage like this, not without facing the consequences. I spent the last decade building your empire alongside you. You think you can just walk away, take everything and leave me with nothing? The anger I have buried for so long started to bubble up. I had been more than just a wife. I had been a partner, a business advisor, someone who helped him navigate the very world he thrived in. And now, he was just going to throw it all away like it meant nothing. I wasn't going to let that happen. We stood there in silence for a long moment. Then, with a deep breath, I turned and walked toward the center of the room, where a massive stage had been set up for speeches. I could feel David's gaze on me, but I didn't look back. I grabbed the microphone, my hands shaking as I adjusted the stand. The crowd fell silent, their attention shifting to me. I'm sorry, everyone, I began, my voice strong despite the storm raging inside me. It seems tonight is not just a celebration of our marriage, but also a moment of clarity. David appeared from the crowd, his expression a mix of panic and rage. Claire, don't do this, he called out, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of the microphone. I've spent years supporting my husband, I continued, my voice gaining strength. I helped him build an empire, a business that's valued at billions. And now, on our anniversary, he hands me divorce papers in front of all of you. He thinks he can leave me with nothing, take everything we built, and walk away without a second thought. David's face was flushed with anger now. This isn't the place, Claire. But it was the perfect place. The place where I could finally take control of my own narrative. I'm not going to let that happen, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm not going to stand by and let him destroy everything we've worked for. With that, I dropped the divorce papers onto the stage. The room was still. People were looking at each other, whispering, trying to figure out what was going on. David was fuming now, making his way toward me. But I didn't stop. I had done my research, gathered evidence of his unethical dealings, his shady investments, and the way he manipulated people for personal gain. I had built a case for myself, for the company, for everything he had taken for granted. Do you think I didn't know about the deals under the table? The things you've hidden from investors? I asked him, my voice cool. I know about the financial mismanagement, the secret accounts. And now? You've just handed me everything I need to end you. His face went pale. I could see the realization dawning on him. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Legal battles, public scandals, and a social media storm that turned his carefully curated empire into a house of cards. It didn't take long before his board of directors started to question his leadership. And the people who once praised him began to turn away. As for me, I didn't just walk away. I took control of the company. I became the one in charge, navigating the mess he had created and rebuilding it from the ground up. It wasn't easy, but I was determined. And slowly, the tables turned. David lost everything, his business, his reputation, and in the end, his grip on the life he had built. Walked away from the marriage with my dignity intact and more power than I had ever dreamed of. Sometimes, life has a way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect it. That anniversary gala was supposed to be a celebration, but in the end it became a reckoning. For both of us, and me. I ended up owning everything.